All right. Good morning. This is Senate Appropriations, and we have one proposed amendment to the budget adjustment as we before we take it up to third reading. So I'm asking the maker of the amendment, Senator Proposky, to present the amendment to us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For the record, Senator Tanya Proposky. I actually just want to say thank you for all of your really deliberative work on this, and just great. This amendment would restore the $2.5 million to house everyone through the end of June who's experiencing homelessness. And just having worked with people who experience homelessness, I'm just so acutely aware of how vulnerable homelessness makes all of us and how quickly health and mental health can deteriorate when people are on the streets. And that's why I bring this before you. I also worry and wonder if the committee discussed the downstream costs of putting people back on the streets with potentially increased rates of incarceration, increased rates of emergency department visits, and what that might actually cost over time, and if it might be more than $2.5 million investment in just keeping people housed. So it's a pretty simple amendment, but that is where I'm coming from.
Yeah. I think the committee tried to weigh that all out, recognizing that there are impacts for every decision, and what we are with, from a fiscal perspective, how well we're doing with some of our core benefits, such as mental health and even our Reach Up program. This goes on, and with the shutting down of the federal program. So this is something that I will want to assure you the committee spent time deliberating and just trying to prioritize, because it doesn't mean the need isn't recognized. It's just how, as we look to the 24 budget, how we're going to have to be making some tough choices about level of funding. And for us, the governor's budget fails to address them. Talk about very vulnerable populations, and those are elderly and residential care facilities, to choices for care, to mental health. So it's within that larger framework that this decision was made, but we certainly understand your thinking behind it. Questions of the senator?
No, we've talked about this.
Well, we've talked about it. We've talked about it a lot, simply as we were making our final decisions on the BAA. So appreciate your perspective. It's one that we try to balance, and so it's not a new discussion. And first of all, thank you for letting us know that you're going to introduce an amendment. That helped us schedule our time and make sure that, and in fact, we talked about, because you had alerted us on Friday, so we did talk about it at that time as well. So that was, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I very much appreciate the hard work that you're faced with in making these decisions, and just and maybe this analysis is impossible, and so just being relatively new and certainly not knowing the complexities of what you do, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So is there a way to analyze forward, just maybe based on past experience, what the actual cost to the system is when 750 people are back out on the streets? Does that question make sense?
I imagine to some extent, we do have experience pre-COVID, because in fact we were not providing housing to everyone at that point, and that's why the adverse weather provision was put in, recognizing that there are times in which it does pose risk. To project, we don't know. We know that people are very resourceful at times, and so there are other opportunities that they explore. But I don't know as if we could do anything better than what was the experience before pre-COVID.
One of the reasons I supported this is that locally we're out of beds, Washington County. So there's people are on the street regardless now. So you'd have to think of that cost. And then also like in the town of Berlin, they said they're spending all their town resources dealing with the problems. So the kind of law enforcement and ambulance and just emergency call volume is so much higher. You'd have to kind of take that into account, the costs with that as well. So it's given that the program, even the strongest advocates I talked to talk about the program in there. So this seemed to be the kind of the best way we could take that $2.5 million and put it towards VHCB to kind of do some long-term housing. That still does create this gap, which is not good, that I didn't see was going to happen at some point.
Other
Well, and the other thing, the 2.5, we were gonna put that towards sheltering, fixing up shelters and having more permanent places for these people, because we spent $200 million on motel rooms and haven't got a thing to show for it other than the 200 million that's gone, and it's gone forever. And, it would seem to me more logical to take this $2.5 to $3 million and get shelters updated and more of them. So we'll have a place to put these people in another year. May and June, it's warm enough, so, usually that you can get by, and the vulnerable people we've taken care of, so, and once this is our money, it isn't federal money that we're spending here. And once our money is gone, we can't use it for anything else as we move forward, and there may be some other things coming down the pipe. Boy, I wish we had that $2.5 million to put into this or that. So,
Senator West, you want to comment?
Wasn't going to say anything, but it's a continuing, someone who has a first in a shelter, then we try to move for long term. We have, since COVID started, basically done no push to have shelters. And in an emergency room, when somebody's in the winter, trying to live out of their car or something like that, or in a tent, we need more shelter space. And this $2.5 million is the only thing that is starting the engine to build more shelters.
So I guess we're getting dinged. And so I think you're getting a sense that the committee is going to continue to support the balance that we have between sloping down and giving time to help in every way we can individuals that would be affected by the shutdown of the federal program. And so we appreciate your putting it back on our plate to discuss. And I think you see the sentiment of the committee is that we would still want to keep up the language and the split in funding that is in the PAA. But thank you.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to go down anytime, but we have to go upstairs.
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment the senator on bringing this forward in the right way, because there are a lot of wrong ways.
This was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. None of us like to be broadsided on the floor, to be honest. None of us, whatever committee you're on. So that's why we're very appreciative that you let us know. So thank you very much.